The day my son-in-law looked me in the eyes and said, "This house belongs to us now," I didn't argue, yell, or call anyone. I quietly invited him to sit down, poured 3 cups of coffee, and placed one old file on the kitchen table. He laughed before I even opened it. My daughter stood beside him without saying a word. Neither of them noticed the moving truck outside had already stopped unloading. Within the next hour, everything they believed was about to disappear. If emotional family stories with unforgettable twists and meaningful life lessons speak to your heart, I'd truly appreciate you subscribing to Behind Dad. Before we continue, I'd like to mention that the pictures shown throughout this story are creative visual dramatizations made to help tell the story. They are not real photographs from my family's life. My name is James. My late wife, Margaret, and I spent nearly 40 years paying for our little home. We skipped vacations, worked extra shifts, and sacrificed countless comforts so our children would always have a safe place to return to. After Margaret passed away, the house became the only place where I still felt close to her. Every room carried a memory. Every window reminded me of the life we built together. Losing that house would have felt like losing her all over again. One Saturday morning, my daughter Emily arrived with her husband Ryan and a large moving truck parked outside. At first, I thought they were visiting to help me clean the garage. Instead, Ryan confidently walked through every room, discussing where his furniture would go. Emily stayed unusually quiet, avoiding my eyes. Finally, Ryan looked directly at me and calmly said, "James, you're getting older. This house should belong to us now. We've decided it's time for you to move somewhere smaller." My heart sank, but I refused to let anger control me. I simply nodded, walked into my study, and returned carrying an old brown file Margaret had asked me never to throw away. I placed it beside the coffee cups without saying a word. Ryan smirked as if it meant nothing. Just then I noticed something strange through the front window. The movers had suddenly stopped carrying boxes. Every one of them was staring toward the driveway as another vehicle slowly pulled in. The movers quietly set every box back on the truck and stepped away from my front porch. Ryan frowned and walked toward the window, clearly annoyed. Before he could say anything, the driver of the second vehicle stepped out carrying a black briefcase. It was Michael, the attorney who had represented my wife and me for more than 20 years. The moment Ryan recognized him, the confidence in his voice began to disappear. Emily lowered her head and wrapped both hands around her coffee cup, but she still couldn't bring herself to look at me. Michael greeted everyone politely and placed the briefcase beside the old brown file. He explained that Margaret had asked him to attend if there was ever a disagreement about the house after her passing. Hearing my wife's name after all those years made my chest tighten. I still missed her every single day. Sometimes I wondered what advice she would give me when life became difficult. Sitting there, I realized she had already answered that question long ago. Ryan laughed nervously and insisted there was nothing to discuss. He claimed I had already promised the house would eventually belong to Emily and him, so moving in early only made sense. I listened without interrupting. Deep inside, I wasn't angry anymore. I was heartbroken. I had welcomed Ryan into our family because I believed he loved my daughter. Instead, I was watching him treat our home like a prize to be claimed. Michael slowly opened the brown file. Inside were certified property records, trust documents, and a handwritten letter from Margaret. Before he even reached the second page, Ryan leaned forward as if he wanted to stop him. Emily whispered his name, but he ignored her. Michael calmly continued reading until he reached a paragraph that changed the atmosphere in the room. He looked directly at Ryan and quietly said, "According to these legal instructions, James has the exclusive lifetime right to this property, and no one may occupy, transfer, or claim this home without his written consent." Ryan's smile disappeared instantly. Outside, the moving crew exchanged confused looks. Then one of the movers walked to the front door and politely said, "Sir, we've been asked to pause because another certified legal file has just arrived from the county records office." A heavy silence filled the house as the county records officer stepped inside carrying a sealed envelope stamped with the official county seal. The movers waited outside without touching another box. Ryan stood beside the dining table, trying to appear calm, but I noticed his hands trembling. Emily finally looked at me for the first time that day. The fear in her eyes broke my heart because I knew she understood something terrible was about to come to light. The county officer handed the envelope to Michael, who carefully opened it in front of everyone. Inside was a certified copy of the property's recorded trust along with an amendment signed by Margaret just 6 months before she passed away. My wife had written that our home was never to become a reward for greed or pressure. She wanted it to remain my safe place for as long as I lived. After my passing, the property would only be divided according to her final wishes if every beneficiary respected those conditions. If anyone tried to force me out or falsely claim ownership while I was alive, that person would immediately lose every inheritance right connected to the house. Ryan's face turned completely white. He whispered that there had to be some mistake, but Michael quietly slid the signed amendment across the table. Every signature had been properly witnessed and legally recorded years earlier. Emily covered her mouth and began crying. She admitted Ryan had convinced her that moving into my home early would save them from losing their own house after his business started failing. She confessed she knew it was wrong, but she kept hoping everything would somehow work out without hurting me. Hearing those words felt like someone had placed a weight on my chest. I looked at my daughter and remembered the little girl who used to run into my arms after school. I wanted to be angry, yet all I felt was sadness. Ryan slowly admitted he had hidden overdue debts from Emily for months. Instead of asking for help, he believed taking control of my home would solve everything. Michael quietly closed the file and looked toward the county officer. The officer then unfolded one final document and softly said, "There is one more instruction Mrs. Carter left behind, and it takes effect the moment an attempt is made to remove Mr. Carter from this home." The county officer slowly read Margaret's final instruction. My heart pounded with every sentence. She wrote that if anyone ever tried to force me out of the home we built together, that person would immediately lose every benefit she had planned to leave them. It wasn't written out of anger. She explained that a home built with love should never become a weapon against the person still living inside it. Her final wish was simple. Anyone who valued the house more than the family was not ready to receive either. The room became so quiet I could hear the old clock on the wall. Ryan lowered his head and covered his face with both hands. For the first time since walking into my home, he stopped making excuses. He admitted his business had collapsed under overwhelming debt. Instead of asking for help, he let fear and pride convince him that taking my home was the only way to save his family. Emily broke down in tears. She confessed she stayed silent because she didn't want to lose her marriage, but in doing so she almost lost her father. Hearing those words hurt more than any legal battle ever could. I realized betrayal doesn't always begin with hate. Sometimes it begins with silence. The county officer confirmed that Margaret's legal instructions were fully enforceable and that every attempt to claim or occupy my home without my written permission was now officially canceled. The movers quietly loaded every piece of furniture back onto the truck. One by one, they drove away until the driveway was empty again. Ryan apologized without asking for forgiveness. Emily hugged me through tears, and although the pain didn't disappear, I could finally see genuine regret in her eyes. Real healing would take time, but at least the truth had finally replaced the lies. That evening I sat alone on my front porch, holding Margaret's old coffee mug and watching the sunset over the yard we planted together. I understood that she had protected more than our house. She had protected my dignity and given our family one last chance to choose honesty over greed. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments because someone reading them may find the courage to do the right thing before it's too late. Share this story with someone who believes parents deserve love, respect, and gratitude while they are still here. Thank you for spending this time with me on Behind Dad. Remember, the strongest inheritance isn't a house. It is the character your family shows when no one is watching.